So welcome to the new season. Jornada 1 has begun. And Mundo Deportivo, the press, the football press in Spain are so idiosyncratic. This game was played on Saturday night. It's Monday morning now, and it's still Lamine, even more than a number 10, because he was absolutely brilliant. No Real Madrid until Tuesday night, and therefore it's John Ram, a live golfer in the front of Mark, and I'm not giving any fucking house room to that shit show of an organisation, greedy bastards. But what they do show is everything's the same after the changes, because not in the game of the weekend, but the result of the weekend, absolutely clearly, Espanyol beat Atleti. And in the case of Diario As, they steal the title of a Who song, or no, a lyric from a Who song. The new Atleti, the new bosses, same as the old boss, same as the old Atleti. Because Atleti looked lost and confused, and although they led with a lovely goal from the Spider, Julian Alvarez, they were overtaken by Manolo's Espanyol team, which has been bought by Alan Pace, the owner of Burnley. JJ Watt, the Houston, Texas NFL Defender of the Year in 3 out of 4 years from 2015, was over on the lash. He's a new part-time investor, a man with 5.5 million Twitter followers, came out on the lash with the Espanyol fans because he's bum chums with Alan Pace. Alan Pace's takeover moved the Chinese influence out of Espanyol. Did it give them massive new capital? No. Did it give them maybe more solidity and a sense of hope? Yes. Espanyol's ground out at Cornellà towards the airport, and you can't see it. I'm not on a big budget operation here, so I can't turn the camera around and point. But if we hopped on the bike that I used to get here, it would take us about 4.5 minutes to get to the old Espanyol ground called Can Rabia, which is where in 1982, the first encounter I had with it, with Graham Runcie, was trying to get tickets for Brazil against Italy in what was, I think, the quarter-final of the 1982 World Cup, that brilliant 3-2 game when Italy knocked Brazil en route to the title. That went, and they went up to Montjuic, and they moved out to Cornellà in what is a handy, nicely enough constructed stadium, but it's a little far from the community that Espanyol call their own. It's a bit of a bugger to get back from, particularly if you're on public transport after a game. And Espanyol for years weren't playing, not even sexy rude hula football. They weren't playing particularly engaging, convincing, or interesting football. But under Manolo, they have begun to do so. It's at this stage, about a year ago, when people in the media, not fans, were saying, who is this Manolo? What has he done? What does he stand for? And look, he's a burly fella, and therefore, given that he was not a high-profile footballer by any means, hadn't been a high-profile coach, working his way through the amateur and reserve ranks before being given the job at Espanyol, people were kind of gunning for him. Like, here's a fall guy, he doesn't really look the part, we don't know his CV, and therefore, bam, they were like, Manolo, he won't be able to last, what abilities has he got? And as the season went on, Espanyol, they hit a point about halfway through where they changed in two things. His structure and tactics became absolutely clear-cut, defined, and he trained Espanyol to be brilliant in the transition, what we used to be able to call the artist formerly known as counter-attacks. And they beat Real Madrid, albeit with the assist cross coming from a man who should have been sent off without any question for a lunge on Kylian Mbappe. But them's the breaks. Espanyol last season beat Real Madrid, and by the time they stayed up, the stadium was bouncing. There was belief, it was fuller, it was noisy, and it became, like Alaves, who I'll mention in a minute, a place where you go, no longer is this a hard bone to chew on. This is fun, there's meat on this bone. It's just fun to look at, fun to go to, fun to see a community proud of its club again. And anyway, 1-0 down to a free kick from Julian Alvarez, 2 subs on, Rubio gets one, and Peramilla, a vastly underrated player by almost every coach I've ever seen running him, and a Catalan fella who played the majority of his career away from Espanyol, could barely get a game last season. He scores, they win, Espanyol beat Atleti. the actual quality of the football throughout didn't rate maybe necessarily alongside, for example, the thriller at San Mamés. And as Fergie, I wish Alex Ferguson said, football, bloody hell. Because Nico Williams doesn't just flirt with, he jumps under the covers into the bed with Barcelona. Fans start to damage his mural and abuse him, and somebody smashes one of the front lights or the brake lights on his car because they think you're abandoning us, you're a traitor, blah, 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 blah. First league game after our stinking pre-season, absolutely stinking pre-season. Admittedly, you wouldn't, as an Athletic fan or as Valverde, the coach, want to see them getting pushed around by Sevilla and conceding 2 goals too often, because Sevilla are pretty minor rivals this season, I have to predict, because they're in such bad shape in terms of their planning. They've sacked the director of football, which was a good decision, I think, but they're all over the place financially, athletically, and in terms of talent above all. And they scored twice. Athletic win 3-2, but Nico is superb. Nico is fantastic, scores one, makes one, writes the theme tune, and the fans are all over him. It's that quick in football that you can lose them, but often, particularly if you're a local loved legend, you can win them back. So Athletic win 3-2. 2 quick flicks at games I commentated on, which I loved, absolutely loved. You will go far, and it will take you a long time to find a worse, stupider game than Gazzaniga in goals gave for Girona. Gave the first goal away embarrassingly, then for the third goal tries to show off to the crowd to chip the onrushing attacker, who I think was, by memory, was Jorge de Frutos, man of the match in that game without any question. He gets blocked, robbed, he pulls the attacker down. It's a penalty, it's a red card. The referee's new resolution, and they have resolved this, it won't last, to go back to clear and obvious. They now want fewer VAR. They've announced to us, they give a briefing to us on Thursday, fewer VAR interventions, back to clear and obvious. Anyway, the ball seemed to go out. They had a look at that on the TV reviews. VAR scratched its chin and said, nah, too early in the season to be abandoning clear and obvious, because it didn't go out by much, but I think it did go out. And at any rate, the play was ruled valid, the penalty was converted, Gazzaniga was sent off. Really firm, clever, hard-nosed performance by Rayo, and De Frutos in particular. But Joel Roca, I'll be coming back to that name again and again and again. A little kid who Girona were telling us about wonderfully, just florid hopes and dreams over a year ago, got a bad injury, was loaned out, spent a season in the second division. He's going to be, at a time when Betis have lost Jesus Rodriguez to Como, which is disastrous. That a player of that youth and talent has gone so early from La Liga. Suddenly, bring Joel Roca, different club, same types of skills. Very, very exciting footballer. What else have we got to say? Getafe, miraculous. David Soria, their goalkeeper, said miraculous win at Balaidos against Celta. There were other games tonight. Betis debut tomorrow evening. Real Madrid host Osasuna. There was high quality football left, right and centre, not least at Alaves, where they overwhelmed, I have to say, Levante, who gave everything, who I think are under-resourced and only managed to use 2 of their 7 new signings. But Calebe at Alaves looks like a very, very exciting footballer. Mariano might be able to replace the departed Kike Garcia at Alaves. Only 3 players scored 5 or more goals last season. 2 of them have gone. Kike Garcia got into Espanyol, and Joan Jordan back to Sevilla, who don't want him, I don't think. So can Alaves replace those goals? Well, they played well. They tried to keep the ball. They were constructive against Levante. The fans loved it. And at the end, they all linked arms. The players went up, sang with the fans behind the goal. And one of the goal scorers, Tony Martinez, ex-West Ham, I think, if I remember correctly, because I'm prone to suddenly getting brain freezes. So there's another final next week, and the interviewer said to him, Tony, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's match 1 of the season and you're talking about finals. He said, these 3 points could be the 3 points that keep us up. I love it. I know other people in this country, Sid and Phil, hate the use of Copa. it's a final, it's a final, it's a cup final. That was very funny. The interviewer did the right thing in interrupting. And this, to some extent, was the weekend when the underdogs were allowed to shine. Why haven't I mentioned Barcelona? Because it was utter and complete madness, and it deserves a little episode on its own. Thanks for being there. Stay tuned.